Germany was damaged by the war for many causes. Not only the country itself, but also all the population were having the harshest time in their lives. This all happened because of many events that took place through the First World War. Germany were allied with Austria-Hungary, a country that did not help Germany at all as they were too weak to protect Germany. They fought against the big European powers such as France and Britain.
Firstly, the Schlieffen Plan was created in 1905 by the General Count Alfred von Schlieffen. It was held on the 2nd of August in 1914. It had one intention, and that was to break apart the Franco-Russian alliance. The German generals had planned to attack France in just 6 weeks, some of the soldiers having to walk nearly 800 kilometers. It was a smart idea, but it did not go as planned. As we can observe, they intended to walk through Belgium and attack Paris.
There were 5 sets of groups, all walking in a curve. A few critical things happened, and they were the following. First of all, when they were trespassing Belgium, they thought Belgium would not resist and let them pass. Wrong, this slowed the process down. When entering France, the Germans believed it would take Russia's army 6 weeks to get here, and once again they were mistaken. The Russians, as France's allies, had to defend them, so they did. Germany's troops were drifting too much to the left as they walked, so they ended up not surrounding Paris. Germany decided not to attack Paris as Russia had mobilized their army. The Marne War in 1914 was fought between Germany against France and Britain. There were over 1.4 million German soldiers, while the French and Britain had just 1 million combined. The speed of the German attack was all part of a strategy called the Schlieffen Plan. Germany hoped to conquer France and Western Europe before the Russians could gather the army and attack from the east. This way, Germany would only have to fight at a war at one front at a time. As the Germans approached Paris, the allies of Britain and France decided to give an all-out effort to stop the advance of Germany. This fight became known as the First Battle of Marne. After a few days of fighting, the Germans were forced to retreat. In this battle, 220,000 German soldiers died. A peculiar fact was that France used taxis to move the troops quickly from one side to the other. They were later on called the Taxis of Marne. Finally, the Allies won this war in 1 week.
The reason why Britain declared war on Germany was mainly because of Germany's actions in the Schlieffen Plan. While Germany were passing through Belgium, the British saw it as a threat and decided to send troops to Belgium to defend them. As Britain did not want Germany to have control over the points in Belgium, they decided to declare war on Germany on the 4th of August 1914. As Germany refused Britain's ultimatum, because they preferred to keep going with the Schlieffen Plan.
The British blockade's main intention was to starve all the German population. This was a very harsh move, although it was also very smart, because as they say, you cannot win a war without food. German civilians started to suffer malnourishment from the winters of 1916 onwards. After this, Germany launched their campaign in 1917, which was called the Submarine Warfare, which later on caused the United States to join the war. The British blockade was responsible for the death of 750,000 civilians. This also caused a lot of anorexia, dropping the civilians' body weight by an astonishing 20%. The infamous turnip winter represented a temporary peak in the shortage of food from 1916 to 1917. A rainy autumn caused potatoes to rot, which reduced the harvest to about half of what it had been the previous year. An extremely cold winter led to a substantial coal shortage, not only in private households. This happened after all the farmers were dragged into the war. This caused a shortage of crops. Everything became so expensive that the population could not afford a healthy diet. All of this was caused because of the British blockade we explained before. So the civilians were feeding themselves by just eating turnip for a few years. The reason they ate turnip was because no matter the weather, it still grows, so there was no problem planting turnip.
William II was an intelligent man, but emotionally unstable and poor leader. After 2 years as Kaiser, he dismissed the current Chancellor and famous general leader Ottoman von Bismarck and made himself Germany's Chancellor. After 4 years of fighting, William II was replaced by the 2 generals called Ludendorff and Hindenburg. After William II was pushed away, Ludendorff was named head of the things political, military, and economic. Ludendorff wanted Germany to remain a very attractive country. An example of this is when he decided to launch a decisive blow against the Allies. After the mistake, he realized that Germany would not win this war, as the USA were starting to have a big impact on the war. In 1918, both Ludendorff and Hindenburg called for a peace settlement. Later on, Ludendorff asked for the war to continue. However, he was asked to resign in October 26, 1918.
While all the men were fighting for their lives, women were not living in a comfortable way either. They experienced horrible events such as starvation. The loss of a father meant a loss of income, and families struggled to survive on government handouts. Out of the 2 million women, who were mainly widows, were living in poverty, as they tried to live with the government pensions, which was very little money to survive with. However, women were really useful during the war. Women were the ones to create all the machinery. This required very hard work for very little money. Women were working so hard because they desperately wanted to have the right to vote, to be equally as important as men. Not only were they getting paid half of the amount as male did, they spent very little time with their children, which made young people uneducated. Young people were also very affected by this, when many school teachers left to work on machinery for the German army. So they had to drop out of school, which affected their future, as they did not have an education.
As we have explained, Germany was suffering huge problems of starvation. They were out of ammunition, clothing, boots, and rifles. They were rapidly running out of men. All of these things caused Germany to set for a peace and leave the First World War, as well as the Germany was surrendered by all the Allies, which made them impossible to win, as Ludendorff said. So after all, Germany did lose World War I and ended up losing many soldiers and risking the lives of many civilians.